Hi everybody, this is GeekyGirl24 on Tumblr and Archive of Her Own, and HyperTeenager24 on fanfiction.net. This is going to be a new vlog series that I'm doing that will basically answer any questions that some of my faithful reviewers will have for me. I'll be talking about projects that I've got going on in terms of the fanfiction, and I'll also be doing reviews of any films that I've gone to see over, the course of the week prior to the video. For those of you who are kind of like, well, I don't know that you write fan fiction. Oh, that's interesting. It's not nothing amazing. I think the most popular one I've got at the moment is the Coco Alpha Omega alternate universe thing that I've going at the moment. Memory is all that we are. I think that's one of the that's kind of at the top at the moment. I have my several one-shot series, Assassin's Creed, Disney and Overwatch. They're popular as well. But enough blabbering about that. What I'm going to be talking about in this video is the new Fantastic Beasts film, The Crimes of Grindelwald. Now this isn't going to be a spoiler-free review. I am going to be talking about the things that made this film good, and I'm going to be talking about things that made this film bad. Which means I'm going to go into a bit of a rant about certain things, and it's very difficult to do that in a spoiler-free review. So, if you haven't seen the film yet and you don't want to know what happens, then do by all means just ignore this video. Dismiss it out of hand right now and just click off. Give you a moment to do that. Moment's passed. Okay, so I personally am a huge Harry Potter fan. I've got my hoodie, I've got my necklace, and I've got my Ravenclaw scarf, if I can remember where the badge is. It's not important. And I've been a Harry Potter fan since I was very, very young. I remember when the 5th book came out. I remember how many times I read that over the course of the week afterwards. And I remember my dad rushing into our nearest supermarket to get the 7th book when it came out and kind of throwing it in front of me and like, oh, that'll keep you busy. Yeah, for the weekend. So, when they said they were releasing a new 5-part movie series based on the book Fantastic Beasts Where to Find Them, I was excited, and the first film was excellent. I have very few problems with that one. This one, it had its ups and it had its downs. So I'm going to be talking about both, and I'm going to make a concise argument as to why I think this film is only okay. It's not brilliant, it's not like, oh my god, this is amazing, this is revolutionary, but it's not terrible. Like, it's not as good as Infinity War, but it's not as terrible as Last Jedi. So, the first thing I do want to talk about is the soundtrack. Now, I believe a good soundtrack, makes a movie. You've got to have the right kind of music to go with the particular scene. And James Newton Howard, who is the composer for the Fantastic Beasts films so far, did amazingly on this. From Grindelwald's theme, which had kind of a little bit of a chanting in the background, that really kind of gave it a very haunting effect. You had Hedwig's theme, as she kind of saw Hogwarts for the first time after the Harry Potter series had ended. Again, amazing. And it had some reoccurring themes from the previous Fantastic Beasts film. Namely, there's a very catchy upbeat moment in a track called Let's Get All the Good Stuff Out, which is from Newton Tina's Almost Execution scene, that did pop up now and again in this new Fantastic Beasts film. It's really catchy. I do recommend you listen to that track from the original, the first film, because it is one of the highlights of it. Alright, another good thing was Eddie Redmayne as Newt Scamander. I cannot fault Eddie Redmayne's performance at all. I do identify with Newt a lot. I mean, I get on with animals a lot more than I do humans. I find them easier to talk to, hence why I'm doing this over a camera rather than, going to any, kind of saying, let's meet up with everybody. I can't do that at all. At least if I do it this way, then I'm slightly less shy. You will see me babbling though, and if you notice I keep darting down, my eyes keep darting away from the camera, it's because I've got a script. I tried doing this early without one and it just wasn't going to happen. Another alright thing about the film was Theseus Scamander. Now, I know a few people were worried about the casting and that Callum was younger than Eddie. I remember putting out a post saying, that's not going to be a problem. And it wasn't. It was actually a really good relationship. Not quite the overprotective Theseus Scamander that we've come to know in the fan fiction leading up to this film, especially in result of the Scamander fix, the original Percival Graves / Newt Scamander fan fiction, which I admit I love Scamander so much I ship it to the end of the world. It wasn't quite that level, but it was still a good relationship. Like, they were strained, they're clearly strained, but there is still that softness between them. Theseus does still clearly care for his brother. In fact, there is a very good moment in this film. Again, it's not a spoiler-free one, don't get annoyed. Where Newt gets into the Paris Ministry of Magic by disguising himself as his brother. Unfortunately, his brother's already there. And remember the look that Newt gave the Niffler in the jewelry shop? That kind of a, what the hell are you doing? Are you serious? That look, that's the one that Theseus Scamander gave Newt when he saw what was happening. I can't help but think that's clearly something that a parent has probably given them over the years. That's my new headcanon. There were flashback scenes for Newt Scamander. Whoever cast the young Newt Scamander was genius. Like, that kid did a really good job. But I think most people saw that was going to be good from the trailers that we saw. It was definitely amazing, and I think we are going to get more flashback scenes, I think he's really going to shine in them as well. Now, for a Fantastic Beasts film, this didn't have quite as many creatures in it, which is probably a good thing, because, not every film can be, oh my god, Newt's, a bunch of new creatures have got loose, and now we have to find them all. That's not going to make a very good film series. What creatures we did see did look absolutely amazing. We had a Kelpie, I think that's what they are, the horse underwater. We had the augury, we had the Zuo. I don't think I'm pronouncing that right at all. I've written it down, but I haven't written down the pronunciation. That was adorable. That was literally one of the cutest things in there, which I didn't think I'd say. And there's also a Chupacabra right at the beginning. Again, that was amazing as well. That was so cute. One thing I will say is that a bit of emphasis was put on baby Nifflers in this film. If you haven't seen it yet, don't get too excited about the baby Nifflers. They're not in it very much at all. Like, there's a tiny little scene where you kind of think, oh yeah, they'd be a problem, and then that's it. You don't hear from them again. The Niffler himself was in more towards the end, but he's still, that was still a very cute creature. Like, I would never, say no to having a Niffler. I think that was very cute. Okay, so I was talking about the flashback scenes earlier. We did get to see a little bit of Lita and Newt's relationship. And can I just say, I'm so glad that they haven't painted her to be a complete and utter bitch. Because that's what I was worried about. I mean, I'll admit it. As soon as I heard Lita Lestrange, and that's the reason, Newt might have been expelled from Hogwarts, I admit I did think Bellatrix. I think quite a few people might have thought that. But she wasn't. She was actually just a very misunderstood young woman who came from what isn't one of the nicest families. I mean, the Lestranges are probably up there with the Malfoys, I reckon. Malfoys and most of the Blacks. Not a nice family, but she struggled. You could see that in the flashbacks, and you could see it in the present time when you saw her. She struggled with where she came from and what people thought of her. Unfortunately, I mean, I would have liked to see more of her in upcoming films. Unfortunately, she doesn't last this film, which I think was a bit of a waste. I mean, if you're going to have a compelling character like Lita Lestrange, who, is so different from Bellatrix, I feel like they should have kept her in just for a bit longer. Like maybe the next film where you saw a bit more of her and Newt. You kind of saw maybe a bit of tension between them, when it came to either her relationship with Theseus and the past between her and Newt. I think that would have made a bit of a compelling kind of back storyline. But unfortunately that's never going to happen. In terms of storylines, one thing that wasn't very good about this, that wasn't good at all with this film, is it had too many storylines in it. You had Nagini and Credence, who were trying to find Credence's family, and then you had the Queenie storyline. Now, one of those storylines should have been in, and I believe firmly that's the Nagini and Credence storyline. For this reason. That is way more important in this film than the Queenie one. So, I'll summarise them up. Nagini and Credence need to find, are trying to find Credence's family where he originally came from. Grindelwald, behind the scenes, is manipulating Credence into joining his side. That's very important. Now, Queenie went through a very drastic character change in this one, which is kind of Imperialed poor Jacob into trying to get married because she doesn't want to listen to the laws from America. She just wants to be happy and get married to him, and he's like, no, we shouldn't do that. It was a very drastic change. Now, if they'd spent this film kind of having a bit of tension between the pair of them regarding Queenie's feelings of getting married and Jacob not wanting her to get hurt because of it, then left this main storyline to the next film, then it would have made a bit more sense. But it was very rushed and not that interesting in the grand scheme of the actual film. It was definitely one of the, every time Queenie came on stage, I was just like, yay, Queenie's crying again. She spends a lot of this film crying. So yeah, this was that Queenie storyline was definitely something that should have been saved for a later film, definitely. Whereas the Nagini and Credence one was more important. And without the Queenie storyline, Nagini might have got more than 2 freaking lines. Why place so much emphasis on that character if you're not going to have her as a main, have her say a lot more than, I think what she says was Credence and we need to get out of here. I think those might have been her only 2 lines. It was actually ridiculous. So I did mention Grindelwald, and I don't think, I can't not have this review and not talk about Grindelwald and Albus Dumbledore. Jude Law as Dumbledore is one of the highlights of the film. He's done a magnificent job. He reflects more the old Dumbledore rather than the new one that took over, Michael Gambon. Richard Harris, possibly. I think the old one might have been called. I will have to look it up because some names do escape me. There was definitely that more warmth about him. Lost my train of thought. It was imagining Jude Law in a suit. That's what's done it. I've lost my train of thought. Now, yes, Jude Law, fantastic Albus Dumbledore. I can see him becoming the first Dumbledore. There's clearly a stage where he's kind of gone, I've had enough with suits, I'm going to go for multicoloured robes instead. I feel like that's after the Grindelwald gets defeated. He kind of goes, right, I'm not having, no more suits for me, I'm going full gay. Oh no. But yes, it was a warmer Dumbledore than what we've seen in recent years, because I think I'm up there with a good portion of the Harry Potter fandom in that Michael Gambon was not the best Dumbledore. He was alright, but none of us have gotten over, did you put your name in the goblet, Harry? I won't go into a rant about that because it wasn't a good performance, and I do feel like the Richard Harris. Where's my phone? I'll put it in the notes as to what he was called. I'm not going. I'll put it in the notes. Okay, so Dumbledore was very good. Then we had Grindelwald. Now, I'm going to talk about Grindelwald's performance purely in terms of Johnny Depp's acting. I'm not going to get involved with what Johnny Depp did or did not do in his personal life. If people really want me to comment on that, then leave a comment saying, can you please talk about that in the next video? What are your opinions on that? And I will. But this is purely from an acting point of view. It was an okay performance. It wasn't brilliant, but it wasn't terrible. At the beginning, he definitely came through as a very intimidating character, and then it kind of just dwindled off slightly. He just came across as quite he wasn't in the fore. He wasn't very much out there, but I think that was a good thing. He was working behind the scenes a lot of the time, so there was no reason for him to be out there, shouting and calling out and, being Voldemort, basically. Voldemort was a very out there villain that we had in the first 8 films of the Harry Potter universe. He was a very, very theatrical villain, whereas Grindelwald, he remained behind the scenes. He was, pulling on the strings in order to get what he wanted, which was Credence on his side and Queenie on his side. That's all that he wanted. So when it came to his main performance in the Paris Crypt, that's when Johnny Depp really shone. That's when he really stood out as Grindelwald, I think. There was the speech, which, did talk about World War II. And then there was, which kind of it played on their fears. And then there was his wand use, which looked like he was conducting. Again, subtle and not like Voldemort. Okay, and I think it's good that we're not having another Voldemort performance. Okay, we don't need another. We know what Voldemort was like. He used fear tactics to get what he wanted, and when push came to shove, most of his followers kind of went, aha, I'm out of here, no thank you. Whereas with Grindelwald, you could tell that he actually has a lot of followers, people who would actually die for him. He would follow him to the ends of the earth, and I think that makes him a much more compelling villain than Voldemort will ever be. Okay, so in terms of the relationship between Albus and Grindelwald, I know J.K. Rowling said that, and David Yates said there was not going to be any, overt hints of Dumbledore's sexuality in this film, or probably not any film recently. But I dare one person to watch that Mirror of Erised scene where you saw them having a blood pact and say, oh yeah, that's completely straight. It wasn't. I mean, it wasn't overt, but it wasn't exactly, them fully hiding it. You could see there was that Dumbledore definitely had feelings for Grindelwald, and, and I don't think Grindelwald probably had feelings back. I think it was more of a manipulation thing. But, shippers could dream, shippers can dream. Do you have to move when I'm doing this? Thank you. So, what was I talking about? Okay, yeah, so it had a good a very brief look at the relationship between Albus and Grindelwald. And what came out of it was we realised that due to this blood pact, neither can attack the other. Which is where the big twist comes in. It's revealed that Credence is really Albus Dumbledore's brother, called Aurelius Dumbledore. No, he's not. Let's look at all the timelines. Kendra and Percival Dumbledore died before 1900s began, if I remember my lore on the Dumbledore family correctly. Credence wasn't born until the early 1900s. I mean, he's no older than 30, and this film's set in 1927, I think. Okay? So, both of Dumbledore's parents were dead before Credence was born. So he's not a Dumbledore. I'm not going to have J.K. Rowling messing up another timeline by saying that he is. He's not. What's happening is that Grindelwald knows that he can't move against Albus Dumbledore. He can't attack Albus Dumbledore. But Albus Dumbledore stands in his way. So what's he got to do? He's going to get an Obscurial on his side, get him worked up enough against Albus Dumbledore, and have the Obscurial do the work for him. Okay? How does he do that? Oh, yeah, by the way, the Dumbledore family, they're the ones who completely disregarded you and abandoned you. It's their fault, and Albus wasn't going to look for you. The Dumbledore family are to blame for all the suffering you went through at the hands of Mary Barebone. I think she was Mary. Okay? So, that's all he's got to do. He's just manipulating Credence into believing he's a Dumbledore in order to get Credence to attack. Now, there is the fact about the Phoenix, but it is only a legend. I mean, I feel like I know the fact that it is Harry Potter and these things generally do tend to come true, but Credence was raised in that Phoenix. The Phoenix probably would have stayed with him anyway. I don't think we should put too much faith on the fact that, the Phoenix happened to come to Credence and, that proves he's the Dumbledore. It doesn't. All it says is that Phoenix is very loyal to somebody who tried to save him. Put a long story short, Credence isn't a Dumbledore. I refuse to believe that's the case. I think he's just an average kid who, unfortunately, has no significance in the wizarding world at all. Which sounds really harsh, but I think that's the case. And I did mention timelines earlier, because I know that if they do portray Credence to be a Dumbledore, then they're going to have to really retract some of these timelines. Why the fuck was McGonagall in the film? Why the fuck was Minerva McGonagall in this film? She wasn't born until 1935, as stated by J.K. Rowling in another book. Why was she teaching Newt Scamander when he was at Hogwarts? It doesn't make any sense, and it is one of the things I don't like about J.K. Rowling. She's, you don't need to name drop characters into a film to make it good. You don't need to add McGonagall into a film to make it good. You don't need to add Flamel into the film to make it good. I'll tell you what Flamel does. He sits there worrying for a bit, and then before he arrives on the scene, and he tells them how to do an incredibly complicated spell that will save all of Paris. And his house is used as a safe house. That's it. He has no real significance to the film, aside from the fact that people can go, it's Flamel, wasn't he from the first Harry Potter? Oh yeah, his name was mentioned in the first Harry Potter, you're right. That's literally all he was. Okay? Same with McGonagall. She's twisted her timelines in order to put a familiar face, and a familiar voice into Hogwarts, rather than just having Albus Dumbledore. It's ridiculous, and it doesn't need to be done. Okay? Don't get me wrong, I'd love to see Albus, a young McGonagall and a young Albus Dumbledore, but I kind of wanted to see it in, if she ever makes a Marauders series, I'd have preferred that to, her to be in that. So that's, So in summary, if the storylines had, if some storylines had been moved to another film, and if J.K. Rowling would stop fucking up with timelines, then Crimes of Grindelwald could have been an amazing, amazing film. As it is, it's fairly average. I think it's not one of the ones that I would go out my way to watch over and over again. So that's the end of this non-spoiler-free review. Like I said, if you do have any questions about things you'd like me to cover in the next video, or questions about any projects that I'm working on, or questions about fan fictions that you're quite into, then please just leave a comment or send me a message, and I'll cover them in the next video. I hate ending these things, because this sounds really childish. Okay, bye!